Hello, and welcome to another interview with a Zine Quest 3 creator. Today we have Mark Finn, who is going to tell us about his supplement called Gobsmack. Or
Hi.
Gobsmack, I'm sorry. Sorry, Gobsmack. I don't want to say the wrong name here.
All right.
Mark, thanks for joining, man.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
And that's not a problem. The document that you sent me that explains what Gobsmack is really cool. It's got a like most zines, I rope in zines as like a very punk rock kind of like underground thing, and that seems to be the theme of with talking to the other creators. It's a very underground punk rock, dirty, grimy kind of like not your mainstream thing. And you say on here in my world, goblins are basically South London working class punks circa 1979. And so like as soon as I read that, I think of like Sid Vicious and those guys that were just completely out of what the quote unquote norm at that time.
Absolutely. In fact, there's going to be in the finished zine a recommended playlist of vintage punk for anybody who wants to really get into the mood, and it will absolutely include the Sex Pistols and the Ramones and everybody that I listened to when I was in my punk phase back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. So yeah, that was intentional, and I've been thinking about it a lot too because I think that I think zining is still very punk. It's very kind of thumbing your nose at the establishment in a way. We've all got much better setups, so our punk zines look way cooler than they did when we were doing them with glue sticks at Kinko's at 2 in the morning because the third shift guy was the only guy that would let you run copies for free.
Yeah.
That was, and I did that. So in some ways, this is a lot easier and cooler. I feel like we might have lost a step, but not really because everybody's a better artist and we're all better layout technicians and things like that. So it's okay.
Good, good, good. So before we kind of get into Gobsmack, let's kind of get to learn who Mark Finn is. So if you want to just tell me a little bit about yourself, maybe also including your gaming experience, what you started with, what your kind of go-to games are.
Sure. My like so many people my age, D&D was my starter. That was my introduction in, and I had a fourth edition blue box. That's what got me going. Shortly thereafter, I found Villains and Vigilantes, and I found Call of Cthulhu, and that was it. I was ruined for life. And so I played pretty extensively through into the early to mid 90s. And I stopped playing when I got a job at Chessex Manufacturing back in the mid 90s to go out to Berkeley and work on their lines. At the time, they were looking at expanding into some role playing areas and things like that. And so I got to essentially run editorial and be editor in chief over their lines. And unfortunately, uh, due to a series of interesting circumstances that I will eventually talk about on my blog, none of that came to pass. But I'm very proud of the things that we worked on at the time. We were part of the we were instrumental in relaunching Lost Worlds. We did some really cool sets of speckled dice that people are now collecting for ridiculous prices, which makes me just shake my head, because I had pockets full of those things at one time, and now I don't. But there, I quit doing that. I have been writing professionally since the '90s, comics, books. I'm best known outside of gaming circles as Robert E. Howard expert, which and we're celebrating his birthday was yesterday, so that was kind of fun. But I wrote the biography Blood and Thunder: The Life and Art of Robert E. Howard, which got nominated for some awards, and is now available in an expanded second edition. That's kind of the thing that I'm known for, I think, best. I got back into gaming with fifth edition and saw that I could now pull a bunch of stuff out of the closet and start using it with some modifications. And so that's what I did. And along the way, my experience as a Robert E. Howard scholar got me a gig working on the Conan role playing game for Modifius. So I got to do some stuff for them on the main book, and I did a large chunk of Conan the Thief.
Hmm.
And so that was very cool and pretty exciting. Most people's first game credit isn't usually, a giant 2d20 rollout,
Yeah.
but that's what I did. And so last year, I was very interested in Zine Quest 1 and got some stuff from it. Last year, when Zine Quest 2 came around, I decided I was going to throw my hat in. And so I took a lot of the stuff that I had been working on and converting and put it into a zine called Monty Hall. And I'm just now finishing up issue 4 of Monty Hall. That's going to be the end of my Zine Quest 2 commitments. And and along the way with that, I got a new project that came out of both. It started with Conan and came out of Conan and Zine Quest together, and that's going to be later this year. And so I still wanted to do Zine Quest 3, but I didn't have something. I didn't want to do something quarterly. I didn't want to do a bigger thing because of the large project that I've got down the road. But I thought that this would be a cool one to do, mostly because of the controversy last year with orcs, and then also because I really like I like goblins, and I don't ever see them being presented this way, and so that was what got me motivated to do it.
Uh, Excuse me for my ignorance, but you said that there is a conflict with orcs. Can you kind of expand on that? I'm not. I don't know anything about that.
The it it started online on, I think, gaming Twitter, but I'm not sure which Twitter it started on. Essentially, um, the the conversation about orcs being racist has come back to the fore, and this divides the room in a way that really bothers me, because on one hand you've got people arguing that Tolkien didn't mean it that way, and on the other hand you've got people arguing that he did. And my take on it is that I don't know what Tolkien was working on, and I don't know. I mean, I've read Tom Shippey and I've read other essays, and as problematic as the language is, I'm really used to reading pulp authors, so I know how to spot problematic language pretty easily. It
Mm-hmm.
sort of jumps out at you in the 21st century. But I also know that where orcs went is very different from where Tolkien put them, you know, and various companies have done different versions of orcs. And I'm particularly, I think the thing that bothered me about the whole argument was it was the guy was quoting, I don't know if it was a guy, the person was quoting basically 3 sentences, a small paragraph in either Volo's or um, Mordenkainen's. I forget which one it is. This wasn't something in the Monster Manual. It wasn't something in the Player's Handbook. It wasn't something in the Dungeon Master's Guide. You had to go get that if you wanted to see that. That was a thing you had to seek out. And I guess I'm so used to, as someone who grew up reading Dragon Magazine every month, and as someone who, we all did it back in the day, but back before we called it home brewing, we called it house rules, and we'd all look down and go, well, these encumbrance rules are dumb, I don't want to use them, and then we just wouldn't use them. I took one look at the Medusa in the Monster Manual and said, "You know what's a lot cooler? Ray Harryhausen's Medusa from Clash of the Titans." And then that became my Medusa. So I'm just used to changing anything I don't like and ignoring anything that I don't want to use. In fact, the current my 5e campaign currently is built on that very thing. You know, I've taped off Dragonborn and Tiefling so that my players don't play them, you know. And then I'll introduce you to them later down the road, but right now we're just going to play the thing that you know how to do, which is people.
Yeah.
And so I this is orcs again. This is orcs all over. And my goblins um have been an integrated thing into the fabric of civilization for a while, and I thought that was a cool take uh, on it. And I hadn't seen anybody do anything like it, so I thought that this would be an interesting way to present, put it in a zine where I can really really say the things I want to say about it and not worry about official this or company line that.
Yeah, yeah, you make it as explicitly right inside here that says you can basically use the random tables as you like. You can use what you want and leave what you don't. So you make that explicitly aware right there. And I like the fact that you're glorifying the goblin. So because when I think of goblin, I think of these basically miniature witch face looking long, exactly like your cover has it. That's exactly what I think of as a goblin. But you're actually making these goblins actually pretty badass, and you can modify them all the way from. I mean, there's a chart here for the first syllable and second syllable of their name. You can roll for their job. You can roll whether or not they fart, they sniff, they all this stuff, and it makes it really cool, and it makes it really personal.
I
Um,
think what's cool about I did that because I like to play goblins as a GM because and it's all for a city encounter. It's one of those deals where you never know how it's going to go, and I like that. I think that goblins should still be goblins and still be kind of dangerous and still be kind of weird. But I just like the idea of um, you know making a goblin NPC that's one of the few goblins that managed to, stick around long enough in the criminal organization to become a lieutenant and then a capo and then finally running the mob. And so
yeah.
now here are your 10th level thieves. Uh, and they hear about someone wants a meeting with them and they walk in the room and it's a goblin sitting at the head of the table and all the other people in the room are being very deferential. That man, players would what?
Yeah.
How does that? When did that? What? How did what? And so I think that's part of the fun of being a GM is getting to throw cool, unique, and interesting situations at folks. So
Yeah, I completely agree. So before I didn't mean to overstep and talk about the roll charts and things like that, but we've kind of talked about it a little bit. Why don't you go ahead and just give me the elevator pitch for Gobsmack? Exactly, what it is, how it's used, kind of thing.
sure, Gobsmack is a set of rules that allows you to create an urban goblin, an urbanized goblin. They've been integrated into the same world with elves and dwarves and gnomes, and they're just part of the magical fabric of your fantasy city. The and but here's the thing: they're still goblins, and so they're going to be goblins doing goblin stuff. And I like and these goblins are um, basically working class. They don't have a lot. Nobody thinks much about them. And aside from making that sort of a teachable moment where you can present players with the sort of things where you don't underestimate anybody. At the same time, I think you have an opportunity to do something really fun, um, and that is to use goblins in more of a folkloric sense than the history that they have presented. Uh, thus far. The Goblin history in Dungeons and Dragons is terrible. It very little thought went into it, um, and so I rewrote it and threw it out. I did something else with it. So that's what this is. This sort of lets you get back to sort of the folklore roots a little bit, and the Unseelie Court. And if you like that, the system that's in there, the fill in the blank system, is usable for other NPCs. It's designed to create something quick and easy, and you can roll it up at the table, or you can roll it up ahead of time. It fits on a 3x5 index card, and if the players respond to it and you see that that was a cool interaction, everybody liked it, you can put it aside and add to it. If nope, if everybody just like moves on, tear it up and keep going. It's designed to be disposable and really quick for the GM who wants to work on the fly or who wants to have a little prep in advance.
Yeah, and one of the things that as reading through that I liked was give your goblin something to care about, where you give them a lever and you give them a trigger, and so it kind of makes, for lack of a better phrase, it humanizes your goblin, and I think that's really neat because, like you said in the beginning, they were just hit point bags and meat bags to be slain and thrown across the side or search their body or whatever the case may be.
Right.
um Really personalize the goblin that's in your team or helping your team or whatever the case may be.
That's right. And the basic zine is going to also have uh, story hooks and things like that. But any GM, at all, can see where the levers and triggers generate story. You know,
Oh yeah.
uh, the players can get roped in, uh, actually hired by a goblin to go get something that was stolen from the goblin. You know, or help me get revenge on this hobgoblin that knocked me around because he was bigger and stronger than me. I need someone bigger and stronger than him. So yeah, the levers and triggers was part of a system I did for contacts for the thieves, and I think that that system it's universal in a sense. Now the six things that goblins care about and the six things that a contact would care about are very different
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Uh, they're goblins, so they're going to like pranks and violence in ways that maybe other civilized people wouldn't, but that's okay. Again, that's part of the alienness of dealing with goblins in a way that you never have before. And I like the idea that you can present some of this to players in terms of just general information, and if the player approaches the goblin and starts talking to him about a cage match that he saw, and this goblin, is triggered by that instead of thinks it's cool and wants to go see it for himself. That's a different that becomes a different interaction, and because I love the social slash role playing pillar of Dungeons and Dragons. That's my one. That's my favorite pillar of all, and a lot of this, especially in urban adventures, is designed to stimulate, those interactions.
Yeah, and you do a really good job in all of these, breaking down, giving examples. For me, who's someone who might not necessarily be a Dungeons and Dragons guy, but I do know what a goblin is. I know a little bit about what a goblin is supposed to be. This is really cool. I like this a lot. Um, so I guess now we know a little bit about Gobsmack. Let's talk about Zine Quest. You said that you did Zine Quest 2 for Monty Hall.
Mhm.
Um, and i- did you go into did you know that you were going to release something for Zine Quest 3, or was it like I have this made in time to release for Zine Quest 3?
I started uh, I started thinking about it really when the RPG zines group on Facebook started talking about it. So, you know, late October, early November is when things started percolating. I had a lot of stuff going on at the end of the year, and so kind of turning all of that off and thinking about, um, doing a zine was great. Uh, and originally, I'd planned on doing a zine that was going to support the larger project uh, it's going to be out later this year. And then I thought that I didn't want to do that because that was putting the cart before the horse. Um, I didn't want to, put a zine out for something that wasn't, around. So that kind of left me high and dry. And Gobsmack was originally going to be my Make 100 project, and I thought that the more I started looking at it, and said, oh well, I could include character classes for players, and it just kind of became like, you know what, I don't think maybe 100's going to do it for me. I think I could probably sell more than. So that's when it became the Zine Quest project.
Yeah, I think that this could be more than 100 backers, sales, whatever the case may be. Now we know, I have to put this out there. Kickstarter says it everywhere. We know that backing doesn't mean buying. But what kind of tiers do you have for your Zine Quest?
I'm going to keep it simple because I just need to. So, uh, aside from the $1 get all the updates tier, uh, you can buy the PDF um, for 5. You can buy the print zine for 10. Uh, you can buy them both for 15. And if you're a retailer and want to stock them, I have a 5 copy for $25 tier. But of course, you gotta give me your state tax number so I know that financial. But yeah, that's really it. I didn't want to do anything super complicated. I did that with Monty Hall and limited. I did a limited package with some extra stuff, and it was okay to pull off, but it ended up being a lot more work than I anticipated. And I don't know that I got a return out of it. I think I just basically uh, I think I would have done okay without it, you know. So I'm just gonna do this straight and keep it easy to do fulfillment on.
That sounds reasonable. I mean, from what I hear about Kickstarter, it can be daunting sometimes. Uh,
Yes, very much so.
so, man, I just had a question. I forgot it. Oh, I see the artwork that you sent me and that I have up here, which unfortunately you can't see. Um, for the cover, is there going to be any internal artwork as well?
Yes, John is working on those pieces right now, and he just sent me one of the ones he's working on right now. It's a hobgoblin yelling at a goblin, and it's just a great picture. It's fantastic. All of his stuff tells little stories, and he's just fantastic. And I shouldn't, if one of the stretch goals is going to be additional art, and some of that artwork is going to be by Bill Willingham.
Cool.
Yeah, so Bill's an old friend as well, and agreed to let me use some of his stuff. So I'm excited about that. But the yeah, John's stuff is great. He hadn't done a lot of gaming art, but his style is very intricate, and he's used to working black and white, which I love. I just always have. That to me feels very old school. Nothing against the painted stuff that we get now. It's gorgeous. I mean, and the skill levels of most of the people working right now are just absolutely phenomenal. But I grew up on comics, and I grew up on art illustrations, especially 20th century commercial art guys, and so all of that stuff. I just adore. chiaroscuro style pen and ink artwork. Just there's nothing like it, and it's very evocative too. I really wanted I wanted to kind of give you goblins, but I let you can fill in some of the details. You know, you don't have to have green goblins. Uh, Not trademarked.
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah.
to have, you know, your goblins can be shades of red or yellow or whatever. And so when your art's in black and white, you get to decide, you know, some of those details, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree. Um, I when I first got into comics, I'd never really liked the black and white until I saw some of the really cool things that, like, looking at Batman in black and white.
Yeah.
Looking at Jim Lee do Batman Noir in black and white. It's amazing because, it just goes to show that even without the color, just the pen and ink right there, it's beautiful. It's absolutely
Oh,
beautiful. And
oh
I've
yeah.
seen some comic book artwork that if I didn't love the book enough, I'd cut it right out, put it in a frame, and hang it on my wall. It's just
Yes.
some of it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Warren magazines from the 1970s. I read those as a kid, and they're all in black and white. But they did one of the cool things about Jim Warren was that he let the artists essentially kind of do what they want, and so he had sort of a light editorial hand when it came to stuff like that. And so, you know, if somebody decided, you know, I want to do this in an ink wash, he'd go, all right, do it in an ink wash. And then you get these cool tones that he would publish. You know, it was so good.
Yeah.
And it really gives you an appreciation for that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I could talk about comics all day long. I love comics. I think it's a very underestimated medium to tell a story. Um,
We'll make that a separate
yeah,
podcast.
absolutely. I would love to talk more
Okay.
about it. Um,
Very good.
so one of the things you talked about, the RPG Zine Facebook page, and that's where I met you. And one of the
Yep.
things that they've been talking about is the $28 28 days initiative to um, to help creators on Kickstarter. And basically, what that is every day in February, you back a game that you may not already be backing, and just back it for $1, and that will help the creator to get more presence on Kickstarter, get more backers, help to get a bigger pot, so they might be able to fulfill their dream of getting their game out there. I was just wondering if you had heard about that.
Oh yes, I saw it. I think the day he posted it and thought it was just brilliant. I'd already planned on it's for international shipping is going to be, you know, very strange, and I'm not planning on doing it this year because of how up in the air everything. But um, Drive Through RPG does something really cool, which is they have print on demand places in these various countries. And so what I found out you could do with Monty Hall and other things last year was that you could, um, when you offer it to everybody, then somebody in Ireland decides they want a copy of the zine, and they go to Drive Through RPG and they print it using their POD technology, and then it's shipped locally to
Hmm.
them because there's a press that will send it for a reasonable amount of money instead of me flinging it from Texas, you know, all the way to Ireland or Australia or, you know, wherever it's going to go where the shipping is crazy. And so that was sort of a light bulb moment. So I'll be sending out updates at the $1 level, and one of the things that I will be letting people know is when the POD version of Gobsmack is available, and so that way anybody from that wants to pick up a copy that isn't in the United States can simply go to Drive Through RPG, hit the button, and you know there they go. I'm happy with that printing initiative that they do. It's really good, and so I think I'm pretty sure that everybody that backs at the $1 level gets, you know, those sorts of updates, and I think that's great. If you don't have a lot of money right now, and well, most of us don't have a lot of money right
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
uh, back in something for a buck lets you kind of, it sticks in your mind. You'll see the updates periodically. And then most people that I know are going to put it on drive through or some iteration of that. And then you can go get it when you do have money, So it's just great marketing. It's a genius idea. And it really will help because these are all small projects. They're, this isn't a $10,000 ask for a full color hardback printed in China,
Yeah.
stuff. It's I think the biggest project. I'm funding at 1,000 because I have to pay artists, but uh, a lot of people I've seen are 500, 750. Uh, doable numbers.
Oh
Doable
yeah.
numbers.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I like about all of the Zine Quest, like the pre where you can click, notify me on launch.
Yes.
I'm looking at their goal number and I'm thinking to myself, you might hit that on the very first day.
Sure.
Which is great because the rest of it is, when I see a number like that as a backer, I think I'm actually doing something to help them get to
Yeah.
their goal. B, if they hit their goal and they go way over, I might be looking at the possibility of being able to get some other things for this. So, like for instance, if it reaches their goal, there's a good possibility maybe I'll get a next magazine or next zine, next issue, next supplement, whatever the case may be. And I know that some of that money that I backed from the first thing went to go help them create that project, make that dream come true, so to speak.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when do you launch on Zine Quest 3?
Well, I'm waiting on approval.
Okay.
The Zine Quest is still goofy. I got approved initially, and I thought I'd hit the button for generating the preview link, and instead I launched.
Oh,
And so I had to cancel the entire thing, redo the entire setup, and then resubmit it. Uh,
dang.
yeah, I know it's okay. I mean, they approved me the first time, they'll approve me again.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, but the plan is to come out. I'm coming out kind of late. Uh, February 15th is going to
Okay.
be the date. I'm actually going to stick to the 2 week window. And so from the 15th to the 28th is exactly 2 weeks. And I feel that, that's going to be about right.
Yeah, yeah, a 2 week window, especially with all these different. I mean, there's got to be at least 300 or 400 different things coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, with the $28, 28 days initiative, these are all, like you said before, all the creators are coming up with goals that are attainable. When I looked at, someone in the group had made a list of the um, last year's projects, and I would say 99% of them were backed, and there was
Yeah.
at least 200 projects there, which is great. I mean, it's amazing. That's 200 plus games, supplements, whatever the case may be, that are now out there to the public. And now, if it was me, I would say, okay, it got backed enough to where we can actually do it. Let's, we finalize it, and then that gives me more hope of wanting to do another one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's of course everybody likes, to know that they backed a winner. And I hate to use that in that term, but unfortunately there is a little bit of game theory, behind the idea of Kickstarter.
Hmm.
Uh I don't think they planned it that way, but I absolutely think that um that was an unintended consequence, and I don't think it's been a bad thing. But yeah, there is something about, funded in one day, funded in 2 hours,
Yeah, yeah.
that people go, oh, other people think this is cool. I think I want to, get involved. And so that's what happens. And I think it's especially for the zine community, which is, I think, on the rise. I think this is a wave that's cresting right now. There's a lot of interest and a lot of people doing it. I think that's going to play into this pretty heavily.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm a sucker of that 100%. If I see
Totally.
something got funded in the very first day, usually it's comes in that Morkborg yellow color that we see all the time, and it seems like if you have the name Morkborg attached to your thing, it's getting funded in one day.
That's a license to see how weird you can. You know,
Oh yeah.
that's I'm such a fan of those guys anyways, but for everything from the design and the aesthetic on down to uh the very notion that when the game ends, along with the world, you burn the book. I mean, how punk rock is that?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
now I would never play the Pandemic where you tear everything up, you know, but I love that some people will. I love that as an idea. That's just genius. And so, yeah, there's a certain amount of I want to go out there where the buses don't run. Oh, you want to do a Morkporg thing?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I haven't been bitten by that urge, but yeah, that right now that's a license to print money if
Uh
anybody wants to do it.
yes, yes it is. And the book is so beautiful that I would never burn it. I wouldn't even think about burning it.
No, maybe the soft cover. I might buy a
Yeah.
soft cover to burn,
Or
but not
just
the hard cover.
print a bunch of PDFs out and
There you go. Buy the PDF, print that copy, you know,
yeah.
but yeah, the hardcover, no, that's if anything, that sits on the shelf as a reminder that
Yeah.
I need to up my uh, InDesign game significantly.
There's something more hateful about ripping it up than there is burning it, though, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, yeah, again. Well, and I'm a book collector and a book person, so like right away, he said, burn the book, and a shudder went through me, as if millions of souls cried out at once and then were suddenly silent. I mean,
Yeah.
I I tell you what, why don't you just tell me to cut off my pinky like the Yakuza? I'd rather do that than burn a book, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
So yeah, that's not happening. But as soon as I read it and recovered from my shock, I was like, all right, this is hardcore. Yeah.
Yeah, it is that is punk rock, that is black metal right there, 100%.
That really is.
I
Yeah.
love it. Every single page is something different to look at and something amazing to look at. It's almost like a comic book, really.
hmm
Okay, so we're looking at February 15th. Are there any other games or anything that you would like to promote? The floor is yours.
Oh, thanks. Well, if you haven't checked out Monty Hall, and you're playing fifth edition, uh, I suggest you give it a shot. There's a lot of options there for 5e campaigns that are based on sort of my old school sensibilities, and they are there's the zero issue, which is a double size sort of proof of concept thing, and then the first three are out right now. And a lot of the material in Monty Hall is going to find its way in a different reorganized format for a game that I'm working on right now called Polite Society. And that's the big project that's going to be out later this year. There is a website where you can sign up and get notified. It is it's going to be a 5e based fantasy game where you get to play heists. And I I don't know how much of this I want to say. Basically it's Ocean's 11 meets the Fellowship of the Rings,
Oh
and
my.
it's going to do, and it will actually be a heist uh, RPG that teaches you how to run and execute a heist. One of the big problems that I have had with everything that's come out lately that's been labeled as heist is they go, here's the maps, here's the traps, and here's the treasure that they're going to get. Have at it, y'all. And bless their hearts. um, as much as people love to play or love to watch heists, and or maybe even read caper fiction or TV shows like Mission Impossible or Leverage. Um, I've not seen a role playing game yet that actually shows you how to take the components and assemble things. The Leverage RPG was about as close as it got because the showrunner was involved in it. But even then, they didn't go all the way. And Waterdeep Dragon Heist didn't have anything. It was just they're going to have to steal some stuff. Well, for if you tell an average gamer you're gonna have to steal some stuff, he goes, "Great, I kicked the door open." and that's not a heist.
Yeah.
So uh, so this is going to be a lot of stuff like that will teach you how to run the ins and outs of it. And if you want to preview some of that, Monty Hall is going to be the place to check that out.
Very cool. Yeah, and I can talk to you later on about it, but I'd like to interview you about Polite Society once it comes closer to launch date.
Absolutely.
Is that going to be a Kickstarter thing too?
It will be a Kickstarter thing. I'm right now. I've assigned. I have commissioned some artwork to sort of show people what what the premise is, and I don't know how much Pathfinder you have experienced, but Pathfinder did some comics, and one of the Pathfinder artists is the guy that's been doing my concept art. And so, I took some very basic and some hopefully very recognizable scenarios and scenes from heist movies and television, and we reimagined them with an orc, a half orc battle mage, and a couple of elves and a dwarf, and so the one I like the best and will probably end up being on the main piece of artwork that will advertise the Kickstarter. We took the poster from The Usual Suspects and put our 5-man crew, in front of the wall. And so
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm happy about it. This is a game that I've been working on for about 15-20 years in various forms, and um, fifth edition is so ubiquitous right now. It just seems like this is going to be the way to do it. I wanted to say that Gobsmack will be system neutral. I'm not going to really have any stats in there unless you want to put them in yourself. Mostly, this is for uh, the role playing, the soft stuff, the traits and the characteristics and things like that. And then if you need to stat it up, and you can stat it up, and that's what I like about this system, is that it doesn't require stats. You can just whatever you're playing fits with this.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, Mark, thank you so much. There's just one more thing I wanted to say. I wanted to reiterate the $28 for 28 days initiative. It really goes to help support indie artists and people like Mark who are just trying to create something special and to share with you. Also, if anyone wants to know a little bit more about the Rollers of Relay, you can find a link tree at linktr.ee/Rollers of Relay. Mark, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. I look forward to Gobsmack. You got a backer out of me for sure. And I look forward to hopefully talking to you about Polite Society when it gets closer to launch.
I'll be happy to come back. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Have a good one.